you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Larry, would you lead us in prayer tonight?
Sure. Father God in heaven, we come before you and we just ask for your guidance as we lead this city and the responsibilities that you've given us. May we always seek your wisdom and your will in everything that we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Nita, would you roll call, please?
Counselor Foster,
Go Golden Knights.
Counselor Locke,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sabella,
Here.
Mayor Becker,
Here.
a quorum is declared.
Do we have any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, sir. We are asking to remove N3, the recreation report. It is in your file, but Jaime will not be here this evening.
I would move to approve the modifications to the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the modifications to the agenda to remove staff proposal reports and actions and remove recreation off of it. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sabella,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Approval of consent agenda. Minutes of regular meeting, May 20th, 2021. Review and approval of accounts payable.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda for minutes of regular meeting, May 20th, 2021, and review and approval of accounts payable. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sabella,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the consent agenda.
All right. Special presentations, we do not have any. So we will go to citizen comments. City Council welcomes your unscheduled comments. Please limit the comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at this same meeting. Do we have any citizen comments?
Go ahead.
When you come up there, please sign your name on that paper that's up there and state your name clearly so we can have it on the recording.
My name's Mary Ann King. I was scheduled to appear before you in the April City Council meeting. I was on the agenda, but I was ill, so I wanted to be on the agenda again, but I was told I couldn't be on the agenda. I wasn't sure why. Because I have some bad news and some good news. I'm going to read a presentation I prepared, and I have something written that everybody can take a look at. I want to talk about the hazards of communication towers. Thank you. Because the communication towers in the city of Monte Vista are proliferating. I think we have 6. And there's one a few yards from City Hall. I'll be happy to read this after I pass this out to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I became interested in electromagnetic radiation when I was living in Los Angeles, and I was selling radiation shields for cathode ray tubes. My interest has continued. It's called electronic pollution. Communication towers have been shown to be detrimental to wildlife, and of course we have the cranes, and also to have a negative impact on businesses as well as the value of property. These and other findings are detailed in the book that I left for you by Katie Singer. Did anyone get a chance to look at the book by Katie Singer that I had left?
I did not.
Okay, I have another copy I can leave with you. In addition to negatively impacting wildlife and a community's economic vitality, these towers present serious health hazards. Number one, EMF chronic exposure is harmful both short-term and long-term. Though most companies only look at SAR measurements, specific absorbed radiation, there is current research showing that EMF exposure causes blood clots, headaches, behavioral problems, visual, auditory disturbances, and cancer, especially brain tumors. Care should be taken to avoid placing communication towers near residences and schools, and I might add, city halls. Children are far more susceptible to the effects because their tissues are thinner and softer. Research also indicates nerve excitation resulting in behavior problems in children. Physicians for Safe Technology lists safeguards that include not allowing communication towers within 1/4 miles of schools, residents, and businesses. And as I mentioned, there's a communication tower within a few yards of City Hall, so that should be of concern to you especially. Because of the higher frequencies involved, there will be more 5G antennas in more locations. Care should be taken that no antenna communication tower should be aimed low enough to penetrate house walls. Of a special concern in Monte Vista is how close communication towers are to schools, city offices, residences, and businesses. Because smart meters communicate at 2.4 gigahertz and eventually will be at 5G frequencies, a survey should be done to determine if alias frequencies will be present at ground level when communication towers are placed. Alias frequencies result when two radiation sources are cross-talking. This especially pertains to Monte Vista, which has 6 communication towers. In California, 136 towns and cities have taken this research seriously and have banned more communication towers and placed restrictions on existing towers. Information about research and what action can be taken is detailed in the book by Katie Singer that I gave to you.
That's your 3-minute time, Mrs. King.
And I suggest that the City of Monte Vista call for a citizens task force to investigate the problem further and to make recommendations for action to the City Council. This is necessary to safeguard the health and well-being of people who live and work in Monte Vista. And then attached are 2 resources. One is the book by Katie Singer, and the other is an organization called Physicians for Safe Technology.
Thank you, Marianne.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you for your research, thank you.
I do not have any questions. Ms. King, does anyone else?
What about my suggestion to form a citizens task force to study the problem?
It may be adapted, I don't know, but it's our policy not to take any action at the meeting that the presentation is made at. It would have to be something that would have to be taken up at another meeting.
I see. By another meeting, you mean at another city council meeting?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna request to be on the agenda for the next city council meeting to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, we've been planting.
That's good.
It is excellent.
And now all the flowers are getting to drink water.
I don't know if you planned that or not.
Hello, everybody. I just, on the good note, I'll bring the good note up first. And I can't ever remember, is it Victor, the little guy who works? Vic had called us to tell us the plants were here. And we got the plants yesterday, everybody got distributed, and we've been planting like crazy in town. And almost all the city little places are planted. So It's been a joy. We've had some excellent help. Just terrific. I'm just so excited about that. So that's the good news. Oh, pardon me. God. Whew, breath.
Wait a minute, are you okay?
Anyway, I was online. Every once in a while I try to get online and see what you guys have on the web. And I ran across something that really piqued my interest, so I'm bringing it up because it disturbed me. On the web page is a job notification for Rob's job. And I quote, it says, the city of Monte Vista is accepting applications for the position of Public Works Operation Manager. And it goes on and lists, if you care to look at it, it's on the webpage. There's 4 pages of duties. And it lists his job. And I'm wondering
Can I
why.
respond to that? It's not Mr. Vance's job, ma'am. Margot, it is not his job, it's
Then
his
why
assistant.
does it say Public Works Operation
He's
Manager?
the Public Works Director. Public Works Operation Manager is a subordinate position. It's gonna provide him with some help. He's got a huge plate full of work.
Fully understand, but it should say something like that. It gives the impression that it's his job. Now, that may be my mistake, but that's how I understood it. So maybe the wording was wrong.
That's the job title, Margot, and I'm sorry that it.
It really upset me.
Well, you should have called me and we could have talked about it.
Okay, I will the next time.
Okay,
I'll grant you that, but anyway, I just wanted to get it clarified. And because bless his heart, he's gotta be in our prayers. And like I said, with the little group who's doing the planning and mowing and everything, they have really been a help. They picked those plants up, they had them in the garage, which is, by the way, you need to put up a sign. I think I spent 10 minutes trying to find the garage. I didn't know where it was. And, we got it all set up and taken care of. And we have 2 gentlemen who have volunteered to help with the planning, which is a godsend because they can dig and prune more than we can. So thank you, and thanks for the clarification. I feel better now. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Margot. Special review use. You presenting that one?
I am,
Special
Okay.
review?
yes.
For
I didn't know if you wanted, Mr. Trujillo, the attorney, to start it.
Oh,
If
yes.
you will, I'll just say we're here on a special review use from Thomas Malloy, 331st Street. And he's requesting to take an existing garage and create an accessory dwelling unit. I've got a copy of the application. It looks, I don't know if the council does, but it looks fairly straightforward. I think maybe to start everything, Nita, if you want to kind of just generally tell the council what is being requested here.
So good evening, council. So before you is a special review use for Thomas Malloy at 330, 331st Avenue in Monte Vista. A while back, if you all remember, you actually approved a minor subdivision for Mr. Malloy. And he subdivided, he had 5 lots and subdivided those into 2 lots. And this house and the garage being on one of those new lots. Mr. Malloy is not present this evening. I am actually acting in his behalf as well. I can reach him by phone if you have questions. But what he's looking to do is the garage that sits behind the house, to remodel that and turn it into an accessory dwelling, which he intends to use as a rental. And that is part of your packet as well, his email stating that he does wish to use it as a rental. proper notice was noticed, we had it in the paper. It was sent to all the property owners within 300 feet. I had 2 phone calls, just wanted to know what was going on. And then, the big orange sign is also posted out at the property.
Nita, any letters of objection or anything?
No.
Anything unusual about the project? I mean, he's got plenty of room, he's got access, he's got everything, right?
Yes, and the garage actually, you can access the garage through the alley. So, the house at the front is accessed by First Avenue, and then the garage can be accessed by the alley as well.
Did they park in the alley or is there a way to come in?
So
into-
if you, I don't know if you see the pictures, I know they're hard to see in your packet, but where the garage sits at the back, there's actually a huge open lot area between the house and the garage that's already used as parking.
So they can pull in and be
Mhm.
out, okay.
Yep.
What is the square footage of the garage?
I honestly do not know that.
I think it's in there somewhere.
I couldn't find it, but that doesn't mean it's not in there. And there's some of it that's just too.
Just a couple places, I see it's 2 parking
I mean,
spaces.
honestly, I have no
Yeah.
reason to be against him doing that. I just don't want us to approve something that doesn't meet the square footage requirements that are already in place.
So it does meet the square footage requirements, for the ADU in our ordinance
Okay.
for accessory dwellings. I thought we had written it on here, and I apologize to you that it is not written on the paperwork. But that is something that we reviewed at the beginning. It actually was reviewed at the time of the lot split as well, or the minor
As a what?
when we did the minor subdivision.
Right.
He
I
had
read
also
that.
discussed it at that time too, so.
Right.
Nita, he'll have to do and comply with our building regulations and those kind of things as well, right?
Yes, so once, if council chooses to approve this, I'll send him a letter of approval, and then he'll take that to the building department. If he's going to be doing any outside changes to the garage, which I don't think he is at this point, then he would also have to have a zoning verification form filled out from us and approved by us, and before he did that, and before the building department would give him a building permit.
Well, if he was gonna make an apartment out of it or a rental, he'd have to change the garage door to a door, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's considered an interior type thing. So if he's gonna add onto it or put a porch or anything like that, then he would have to do the zoning verification.
So it could be a rental property and they would just have to use the garage door as they're going in and out?
Well, no, what she's saying is that the entrance is considered a new door, like.
Oh,
part
so
of-
if there's a
part-
smaller door beside the garage door?
Well, no, it's just that the garage door is they can take it down and not have to worry about a permit because it's
Okay.
considered.
They'll have to go through the building department.
Okay.
For a building permit.
Alright, I just don't wanna set him up, us to say yes or no and then him get excited and then we go, oh, sorry.
No, he'd have to follow all the building guidelines.
Okay.
Does he understand how much building costs have gone up in materials? That's a whole different.
I know,
topic.
that's a whole
His
other-
problem.
It's a big
Not
problem.
ours.
It's a big problem.
Can't be there.
$100 for a sheet plywood.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Anything else, Nita, you have?
No, sir, that's it.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against the application? Doesn't look like we have anybody, so why don't we close the hearing at this point? Turn it over to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Trujillo.
Well, I would move to approve the special review use for Thomas Malloy at 331st Street. His request to take an existing garage and create an accessory dwelling unit.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the special review use for Thomas Malloy on 331st Street. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor
Foster?
Aye.
Excuse me, Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the SRU for Thomas Malloy at 330 First Street to turn the existing garage into an accessory dwelling unit.
That'll be one apartment that becomes a $1 million apartment.
Yeah, there'll be bidding wars on that one.
Just charge $1 million after it doesn't finish up.
Okay, we'll go move on to resolutions. Resolution 2021-09, budget amendment for Sky High Recreation improvements.
Good evening, Council. Before you this evening is Resolution 2021-09. It's a resolution to approve an amended budget and appropriations of funds for calendar year 2021 to authorize expenditures and revenues for the 1 cent sales tax fund. And so the purpose behind this is, as you are aware, Sky High is moving along quite beautifully. And part of the funding for the 1 cent is earmarked for recreation programming and sports equipment. And you'll see later on in your packet that you have a bid that's in there for the approval of the purchasing of the floors. So I don't know where council stands with that, but this budget amendment is here in order for us or the city to purchase the basketball floors and the volleyball netting that would be needed to hold recreation sports within the Sky High Events facility side. As you are well aware, we've all made a major commitment to finishing this facility and having it operational, and so this is kind of the key component to it. So with that, what we're asking is that we take some of the sales tax revenue that we'll receive this year and add that to the sales tax that we received last year in order to purchase the basketball floors outright.
I assume the citizens, 1 cent oversight committee approved that?
Unfortunately, due to the constraints of the bid and the timing and what we have going on there, this has not been taken before the 1 cent committee.
And the constraints are because of
Because of what we just talked about with materials and the lead time on it.
The cost of wood is like insane. And they basically like, this is as long as we can hold it, otherwise the price goes up. How much? I don't know. But I just had a nice lady in my office talking about her chicken coop. That's a nice simple plan and how there's $600 worth of lumber in it for 4 chickens. So, it's a little scary.
What's the actual date that we can hold on to this price? I mean, is it tonight? Is it literally tonight?
It was 10 days from the day of the bid. So June 27th, 10 days from, or I'm sorry.
May 27th.
Yeah, the bid deadline was June 27th. So that's when they were opened. So basically,
Yeah, it's gotta be tonight, cause we won't have another.
right, unless you go to a special meeting,
Right.
which would be Monday or so.
I'm not against doing it, I'm just not sure how it's going to. I don't like that the 1 cent committee hasn't been able to look over this. I mean, I understand why they haven't been able to,
There's,
and I understand why we need to go ahead and do it because of the wood prices, but we did form that committee with the understanding that they would oversee this.
No, they are an advisory committee, counselor, and yes, I would think in a perfect world we could get them together before that. But it's not a perfect world.
yeah.
And and basically we're doing the same 1 cent from last year. The 1 cent we're planning on this year, that's earmarked for that.
Mhm.
Correct.
It's nothing extra, like we're not
Right.
pulling out anywhere else. It's what was tagged for that.
Yes,
Okay.
it's all within the percentages approved for each department. And I'd also like to note that if you read the the last whereas of the resolution, it talks about where we're gonna shift money from what we had budgeted for utilities, because we thought Sky High would be more complete than what it is, and we had hoped that it would be operational. So we're moving money from the utilities and the property maintenance in order to cover some of these costs so that we can still maintain a salary budget for an events coordinator as this gets closer to being finished. So we haven't changed the entire Sky High department within the 1 cent, and we did have, I believe, a little over $80,000 budgeted for sports equipment. We just weren't planning on such a large number coming back from on the floors because of what has happened. You know, nobody could really see that coming. So, it's up to council. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. If you don't wanna approve it, I understand. We'll bring it before you again, but just know that it is a time constraint.
I think the 1 cent committee would be fine with the result. You know what I mean? Just because, we're trying to save money, not trying to spend more, and I think they would probably make that same decision. So,
I think they probably will too.
I would move to approve resolution 2021-09 budget amendment for the Sky High recreation improvements.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2021-09 budget amendment for Sky High recreation improvements. Is there any more discussion?
I would just like to know, when is the next 1 cent committee meeting, and are you willing to be there to help explain why and what we did and how it works?
Well, one of us will be there for sure. We haven't set a meeting date.
Mm-hmm. I just want them to, I wanna know that they're gonna be
I totally
understood.
understand, and we can absolutely send out some correspondence regarding this.
Okay.
Even if we can't get a formal meeting together.
Right.
That's definitely not an issue, and it was a concern of bringing this, but we also, as Councilor Segala said, we can either wait.
It needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So and I get that. I just wanna make sure that we also consider how the 1 cent committee looks at this and how they feel, that they don't feel like they were left out of.
No, I totally
something.
understand, and like I said, we did budget for sports equipment and floors and things like that. It just came in a whole lot higher than what we had anticipated.
I just know it's a lot easier to keep people from getting mad than it is to calm them down once they've gotten mad.
So at that meeting, can you have chocolate cake?
With ice cream?
Absolutely. I think this will need ice cream, yeah. I think this calls for ice cream.
Yeah. So it's been moved and seconded.
Yep. So any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve resolution 2021-09.
And can you
Thank you.
tell them we're sorry?
What's that?
Yeah.
Can you tell them we're sorry?
I will. I like I said, as running that, I feel really bad, but sometimes that's why we're in the positions that we're in, is because we gotta keep things rolling and grooving and moving, so.
Well, and as we look through all this, if you guys they're doing their best to make sure they're cutting corners where they can. Cause some of those people are it's salespeople wanting to see that extra money, but these guys have been working diligently to try to keep it cut back, so. Alright, we'll move on to resolution 2021-10, amending the employee handbook.
I did love the Spalding baskets, but my gosh, that was expensive. So we're like, I mean, we Googled, they're not equivalent, but certainly will work for our purposes, that you get 8 of them for, I don't know, $5,000 piece, so So anyway, we will take that as a separate issue. Okay, resolution 2021-10, approving amendment to section 4, attendance and leave provisions of the City of Monte Vista Personnel Rules and Regulations Manual pertaining to the allocation of holidays or related provision of paid time off, PTO in lieu. So, a couple of years ago, council approved a change of our PTO policy, which is primarily what this is about.
And, you know, it seemed like a good idea at the time. It was a well-intentioned idea, as a matter of fact. But what we found out or figured out was that it was kind of an overreach. The presumption that was presented by a former police chief of ours was that, you know, all police officers had to work on holidays. So on the face of it, you know, that kind of makes sense, except that if you take the shifts of police officers, not every officer is gonna work on that holiday. So we kind of, our HR and safety coordinator went back and kind of did some analysis on it, and like, you know, in a way, it wasn't really fair. So this PTO policy was really for the police officers and a couple of wastewater employees, because they have to run that plant 24/7, 365. So somebody always has to be there to do testing and all that. But what we figured out is it wasn't really necessarily that fair to them, because a lot of times they struggle to take the amount of PTO hours offered. We started talking about it, and we're like, well, but what if they got all the regular, so basically they didn't get the holidays that the city had, they got PTO in lieu. And then they struggled to take the PTO, but the PTO is not compensable. Doesn't carry over the next year. You don't get paid out if you leave for it. You know, it's a trade-off, and that's what it's designed to be. But we're like, you know, why don't we just pay people to work on holidays, time and a half? And if they're not working on the holiday, they get their regular holiday pay and get compensated. So all the employees of the city get holiday pay, and if you work on it, regardless of what your position is, you get paid for it. In addition, we kept 3 days of PTO for everybody. So that's kind of the flex days. So in addition to the holidays, the 8 holidays, we kind of pared back a couple holidays we used to have, because we weren't sure where those really fit in the world. But of course we kept, you know, Veterans Day and the 4th of July and a couple other holidays that are standard, but some of the other ones were like, would they rather have a day off at their choice or have that holiday for the city? And a lot of those other holidays, the citizens don't get off. They would like our offices to be open. So we're like, okay. So basically this gives every employee the same shot at holidays. And if you work on holidays, you get paid time and a half. If you don't work on it, you get paid for the holiday. So actually, to our thinking, it's fairer to the people that were giving PTO to that couldn't fit it in. They'll get paid for those holidays instead of having it, you know, use it or lose it thing. And they'll get 3 flex days, everybody will. So we figured this was a lot fairer than the way we had done it. And, you know, I did discuss this particularly with Chief Dingfelder, who isn't here tonight, but he actually liked it a lot, because he knows that it's a struggle, you know. And honestly, it feels really bad if you're an employee at the end of the year, you've got 5 PTO days left, but you're working, you're on the schedule, and you can't take them. Then you feel like you kind of got ripped off a little bit, as opposed to if you get paid for those holidays. If you're working, you get time and a half, and you're not going to be working every holiday. Now, there are some people that volunteer to work holidays, you know, that like to, and that works out okay too. So basically, this would be an amendment to the handbook, our personnel rules and regulation manual that would kind of correct our experiment in PTO and make it consistent across the board for all employees of the city. If you all have any questions, or
So when do we get PTO?
well, you know what, Counselor, it works really well. You guys have PTO when you're not here. Oh, it works that way, would it be nice?
I really wasn't expecting that, Larry.
On the 5th Tuesday of every month.
The 5th Tuesday. Okay, I hold you to it.
It does happen here,
So this amendment kind of seems more of what's more common out there, right?
It is. And actually, I have a big thing of research that our HR coordinator did, and this is pretty much what everybody does. We kind of, I think, went off into left field a little bit on this one.
So we're just kind of
Coming back to center here.
Yes, we're gonna try to go to the center, not go to right field, but just
Right.
go right down the middle of how that'll work.
Well, the sprinkler was on over there, so, you know, yeah.
While it was raining?
Next month,
Nice.
5 Tuesdays.
Is there 5 Tuesdays? We will not have a work session.
Did you look at it to see when there was a fifth?
That's fun. There will be no work sessions or council meetings on the 5th Tuesday of July. PTO day for the council.
Well, I would move to approve resolution 2021-10, amending the employee handbook.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2021-10, amending the employee handbook. Is there any more discussion?
And just for the record, this would take place, the pay period that starts on July 4th. July 4th is a Sunday this year, which is a bummer, but anyway.
Hey, you'll still get paid for it.
Right.
Yeah. Nita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve resolution 2021-10.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Forrest. Ordinances. Ordinance 909, amending Article 17, Section 12-17-80, adding guidelines for fences, garden walls, retaining walls, hedges, and screening.
Good evening, council. Before you is ordinance 909, amending Article 17, 12-17-80, adding guidelines for fences, garden walls, retaining walls, and hedges and screening. Our current current code just covers screening, which is the last page of your, or on the very last page of the ordinance, is the only thing that our current code covers is screening. And after the last council meeting, you requested for staff to put together an ordinance, and that is what we're bringing before you. I don't know if you guys want me to read it into record, or if you guys wanna, if you've looked at it and you wanna have discussion about it.
I've read it and have a few comments, but I wanna make sure everybody's had a chance to read it.
I read through it, so I don't know.
Okay. I realize that the particular case that we heard last time was just a neighbor being really ugly. And I think that we may be going a little too far with this. Because somebody's being ugly now, good people in the town are gonna have to be under regulations I don't think they should have to be under. For example, I don't think that the front yard and the side yard should be 6 foot, should only be allowed to be 4 foot. One of the complaints was that a toddler was walking through. When was the last time you saw a 4-foot toddler? So a 4-foot fence is not going to be any safer than a 6-foot fence. What I think would be safer would be is addressing more the setback. For example, in the picture that she showed us, and I actually went and drove by it, and I'm sure most of you did. If that fence were set back, say 2 or 3 feet from the property line, then you could back out safely. Someone could see you backing out safely. The 6 foot and the 4 foot doesn't make any difference. I just, when I'm pulling out from Davis onto First, honestly, what impedes my vision is the city trees. I don't wanna lose the trees, please, nobody, I don't wanna, no, please, let's do not cut down the trees. What I'm saying is, it's not the height of the fence that is the problem. It's how far forward the fence goes. So if I put a fence in my yard, and I'm planning to, and hopefully be able to do it the way I want to, and I want my front yard to have a 6-foot privacy fence. I have the street, I have the green space, I have the sidewalk, and then if I go back another 3 feet, so what's the green space? Does anybody know? It looks about 3 to 4 feet to me.
It's about 5.
That's about 5, okay. And then you've got the sidewalk, which is another 3 foot, so that's 8, and then you've got me going back another 3 foot, so that's 11. That's about the length of your average car. That's plenty of space. So it's not the height, it's the setback that makes the vision, that creates the vision impairment to me. And again, I don't see where, I mean, you make it 4 foot. If I'm driving my truck, I can see over a 4 foot fence. If I'm driving a Camry, I can't. So again, the 4 foot's not solving, taking it down to 4 foot is not solving the problem unless we're going to grow huge toddlers and we're all gonna drive trucks. That's my take on that, is that I just think that we are going a little over. It's kinda like when we, you know, how the nation reacts when we have a situation where someone commits a crime with a gun. We tend to go after the guns instead of going after the criminal activity. I don't want us to go against responsible residents that are willing to bring their fences back and tell them that I'm sorry, you can only have a 4 foot fence. My dog can jump a 4 foot fence. A lot of dogs can jump a 4 foot fence. Maybe people want maybe people want 6 foot just because they want privacy. Maybe it's none of our business why they want 6 foot. Maybe we shouldn't have to make people justify what they want on their property, as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of another. My rights go as far as they begin to infringe on somebody else's. So a setback, I think, would solve that better than a height issue. I'm done. Sorry. Because I feel like everybody's looking at me like, when is she gonna shut up?
I could get a timer out.
You got a timer on?
Yeah, me get a timer. No, I didn't put a timer on.
Isn't there a setback from like sidewalks?
Nope.
Anyway?
This has this would have an 18-inch setback from the sidewalk. Is there provisions if there's not a sidewalk? I'm sorry, I'm kind of skimming through this, apologize for that. If there's not a sidewalk, is there a setback from the street in here?
Where's the street? That's always the question, Counselor.
True.
Right? I mean, so using the property line is probably the most reasonable thing. Because we have, I would say 80% of the houses in the city probably don't have a sidewalk, or 70%. So property line reference is pretty good, although I've had plenty of arguments about people where their back fence property is and where our alley starts, but we work through that. So.
I think the setback from the street is more important than the setback from the property line. Because we do have residences, their property line goes all over the street. They don't have a sidewalk in front of their house.
Right, but their property line actually doesn't go into the right of way. There may not be a sidewalk, there may be dirt where they park their cars and all that stuff, but that's in the right of way, right? If we did have curb and gutter and pave the whole street width, like we have a 60-foot wide right of way, and we got a 40-foot street, right? Pretty, not totally uncommon. And then we have no sidewalk, curb or gutter, right? And then you get into this, is that no man's land? Actually, it's right of way. So their property line is usually inside of that, usually.
What about the corner of, I'm trying to think of the house that I'm familiar with, 6th and Jefferson? Their yard goes all the way to the street. It's not, and the street is as wide, it's not like Davis Street where.
To be honest, they probably encroached, thank you, sorry. They probably have encroached on the actual right of way. If we ran down and put a flat there and measured center line to center, I'm gonna guess, yeah, those houses along there probably are sitting in.
Well, the street there is wide.
Right, but there's a curb line.
It doesn't look like Davis Street where, and I'm not picking on Davis Street, I understand why we couldn't finish that out with curbs and gutters.
There's a curb line there, and I'm gonna guess the right of way goes farther than that, and there should be sidewalks there, it just didn't happen. So people just kind of absorb that, just like they absorb the ditch right of ways.
Right. Still, if the setbacks begins at the street, then that's a more uniform way of being able to be able to tell people, you know, your fence has to be this far back from the street.
But I would argue right away, Counselor, because the street, well, okay, we've just paved some streets, so we have, I can't remember what the pavement width is, 38 feet? Does that sound right? Our new paving things, and then there's all that dirt, but all that dirt is in the right of way. So if you say it's from the street, then there will be someone who goes, well, that pavement's the street, by God, so I only have to come back 30 feet from that. And that's not even their property.
Well, then we can say, by God, that's not all the street, because that's the parking part, and that's
But if the
where a
code
sidewalk
says
would
the
be.
street as opposed to the right of way,
Okay, so we could say right away.
right, so if it
So
says,
we could say, okay,
you know,
it
that's
has to
from
be
the
set
edge
back
of the
so
right of way.
far from the right of way.
Yeah, I think that's a fair, cause usually, not always, cause there's all kinds of fun stuff here, as far as plating and the streets, but behind the right of way is probably a fair assessment. If they're behind the sidewalk, the right of way usually goes to behind the sidewalk, right? If there's not a sidewalk, it usually goes to some dirt that abuts their lot, so.
Mhm.
But at least you can pretty much say, we do have maps where we can say, and we'll have better maps in the next year with our GIS program to go, this is 60 feet from the center line, here's the center line, we go out there and say, yeah, this is presumably your property line, unless you wanna hire a surveyor for $1,000 to prove otherwise. So people usually accept that as reasonable. Like in the alleys, we use the straight line theory. If there's 15 fences that line the alley and it looks like it's, if you measure it, it's 15 feet wide, the next person goes, well, where's my property line? Well, if you line your fence up with everybody else here, it's okay. That's really not, that works, right? It's harder on front yards, because you go down a block and you're like, we have blocks where this part's 60, you go to the next block and it's 54. You're like, how did that happen? I don't know, but I think back in the right of way is probably a good way to describe it.
Well, and that's fine with me, I'm not, I don't know how these things should be worded. I'm just saying that the setback, I believe, is more important than the height of the fence. Again, we're not gonna have 4-foot toddlers. That 4 foot is not going to solve that problem, and that is the problem. We're not going to have everybody driving a truck that can see over a 4-foot fence, and that's the problem. So 4 foot doesn't
Well, other
solve.
communities solve that by saying that the fence can't be solid.
Oh, but again, we're punishing an entire city full of people for a couple of, for some that just are unkind neighbors.
Well, I'm not arguing with you, Counselor, and we're not trying to punish anybody.
Well, punishing is not the right word, but we're putting in things that, restrictions on people that haven't done anything wrong. And it's not gonna change anybody that's already done it.
Right.
It's not, everything's gonna be already grandfathered in, and then we're gonna tell, you know, people who wanna put up new fences, you want your privacy? Sorry, you can't have it. You know, your dog can jump this fence, sorry, you can't. Again, we don't need to have citizens explaining to us why they want a fence. We just need to make sure that it's not impeding street vision.
That's the intent.
Huh?
That's the intent.
I know that's the intent, I do. I just don't think that 4 foot is any different than 6 foot as far as vision is concerned. Setback to me would make more sense.
Totally up to you all to decide how you want to address it.
How would, because they have to get a permit for a fence, yes?
Correct, yes.
And if this was put into play and they don't have a sidewalk, is it based on property line then, as you talked about, and you figure out where the right of way is and?
Essentially, yes, we'd say this is the right of way width here,
Okay.
so this is your property line. Most people are pretty good on that basis, some aren't, but. most
Okay, I didn't know if we needed to add something specifically for non-sidewalked places or not, but if that would be how it would be handled, then that's
I
sufficient.
think if we use right of way as a designator, that makes
Okay.
it pretty. There will be those that argue that the front of their sidewalk's the edge of the right of way, which is never correct, or almost never correct.
Okay.
Usually it is the back of the sidewalk to the back of the sidewalk.
Okay. Yeah, and I wonder if 18 inches is sufficient. I have never backed out of a driveway and tested to see what the visibility limits are. Fortunately, my neighbor next to me was kind and did not run their fence out like the aforementioned person. So I don't really know what I don't know if 18 inches would be sufficient to gain visibility down a sidewalk or not. I look at 18 inches and I think that's not much.
Right, agreed. I think if we're gonna not have a 4-foot restriction, that you would probably want somewhere between 3 and 5 feet. Gives you a fair chance of seeing stuff.
Yeah. I understand Kessler's Lock's statement about that. I'm not a huge in favor of giant fences in front yards. I think that makes neighborhoods look very unattractive to other people. It's just my opinion on the world.
And I'm fine with your opinion, but, you know, another homeowner may not share that opinion.
So we recommend changes in this and then send it back for rewording? Is that what we do at this point?
Yeah, if that's what you all would like to do, you bet.
Well, the situation needs to be addressed, obviously. So we need to, would we take a motion and then amend this? Is that what our proper procedure would be?
Right, Counselor, actually, you have 2 options, or a couple options. One, you could take a motion, a second, and then move to amend it. And then that could be a friendly amendment to the motion to approve it. And the second, if everyone agrees on the friendly amendments, then you could actually vote on it as amended tonight and approve it. Or you could all discuss changes that you all agree on and then send it back and we could bring it back at the next meeting. I mean, it's an ordinance, so you have 2 readings on it. So you could pass it tonight with proposed amendments and we could bring it back all nice and clean for the next council meeting. And then if you're good with it, all the changes, you know, Nita could do like a little kind of a red line version for next meeting. Yeah, the Robinson one a little nuts tonight. Anyway, so you could amend it, or someone could make the motion, say, I move to amend that, I move to approve this ordinance with the following amendments. If there's a second on that, you can vote on it that way, and that would pass first reading, but still have to come back for a second. And
What if we
continue to modify
were
it.
to ask city staff to, because like Mr. Foster, Councilor Foster said, I think 18 inches, and I don't think that's very much. But it might be, you know, what if we were to ask staff to figure out what's the best place to measure from? Is it from the center of the street? Is it from the, and how far back does it need to be to provide visual?
Well, we would come back with
clearance?
the edge of right away, it's just that, honestly, but the question is how far back from right away.
I'm thinking it's a bird trying to get in, but I'm not sure.
It's the bird, it's behind
Bounce
you,
off the windows.
Uh-huh.
chasing bugs.
It's making faces at you.
I'm sorry, you missed citizen comment time.
Dale one spot?
That word won't live long.
Anyway. So whatever y'all wanna do there.
Well, like Larry said, if you're gonna put a 6-foot fence up there, definitely needs to be more setback.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do 4 foot, then there's some allowance there with that.
And it could be written that way, that if you want your fence to go further out towards the street, then it has to be 4 foot. If you want a 6 foot, then it has to be back further. Again, I just don't see where the 4 foot and the 6 foot really solve the problem.
Well, I'll actually play off of something that Councilor Foster said. In many communities, they have it that way for the visual appeal of it. If you go down a block of residential houses and all of them have 6-foot front yard fences right out to the curb, what does it look like? How does that, what's your curb appeal to someone who's moved to town? Wow, all they need to do is add concertina to all those, and it seems like a really fun place to live.
Oh, I think that's addressed in here, we're we're not gonna do any barbed wire razor edge. I'm okay with doing that part.
I gotta take mine down.
Actually, I did read that and thought, you know, that's not gonna hurt anybody other than somebody that shouldn't be up there anyway.
Or
So,
kids,
you know, I'm kinda not against razor edge.
honestly, or some kids chasing the football, or this is the only community I've ever been
Right.
in that would allow razor wire or barbed wire on a residential fence. Industrial, hey, you take your chances, but you know, you shouldn't be playing football by the factory, I guess. I don't know. But anyway,
Climbing a tree, your first one. Not that that would ever happen.
So I guess I'm gonna make the motion that we send this back, to reword it with the clearer understanding of the setbacks. At the next meeting.
so you're making a motion
review.
that, if I can clarify, you're making a motion to table this item until a date certain the next meeting, to seek clarification on, the guidelines for setbacks and fence heights.
Just for setbacks, I'm not concerned about the heights, but yes.
Current regulation says 4 feet, Counselor, and you do not want that to stand. correct?
Exactly, okay, yes,
Okay, yes.
okay. So moved.
And seconded.
Okay.
It's been so moved and seconded. We've had lots of discussion. So Nita?
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Counselor Luck,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala,
Aye.
and Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to table ordinance 909 until the June 17th council meeting. Is that right?
Right, that is correct. June 17th. You're welcome.
Thank you. Contracts, agreements, and leases, award for Sky High Recreation Floor Equipment.
Get one of those. Okay, here we go. So you have in front of you, part of a bid package, a bid submittal, and a memo from me to you all regarding bid proposals for the athletic flooring at Sky High. We issued an RFP that actually made it out to a couple of plan houses. So, you know, not only did we advertise it locally, but it was on a couple of plan services. I'm not sure how many copies are picked up because we don't have memberships to those plan services other than know that then they follow up and ask you, did you get bids? How much were they? You know, which is fine to share with them. The initial bids we got back and the flooring, so, you know, in government bidding, you cannot say it has to be exactly this flooring. But we gave this particular flooring as the exemplar, but we did not require that they bid that flooring product, but this is really good. And one of the constraints here on Sky High is the use of the facility. So doing a lot of discussion with the Friends of Sky High, which includes, you know, Stampede and the Ag Conference and the Chamber of Commerce and everybody else, it's like, how do we have really good basketball floors and volleyball floors, basically recreational floors, and yet, you know, have things like Stampede or the Ag Conference or these big events where people are moving stuff in booths and all that other things that happen. And as you all might recall, there was a basketball floor at the east end of the old building, the east end, not the pool end, but right there. Y'all remember that beautiful rubberized floor thing that ended up with a permanent doodle in it from someone turning around skid steer. Anyway, it was also old and aged and everything, and it lasted fairly well. Had some bad properties to it, but how do we get around that? Well, the conventional or the best answer for that is a jigsaw puzzle, which is a removable floor system that you can stack. It comes with dollies. You can, now having actually walked in the building the other day, I looked at the storage space, I'm confident we can actually store it. Most of the time you wouldn't have to, which is a great thing too. Because this floor will take about 3 man days, probably with 4 people, to take it apart, put it together properly, so you can put the jigsaw puzzle back together in order. But it can be taken up, so then when you have the dance for Stampede, or you want to have roller derby or something that could go on, the concrete floor is finished and it's actually pretty nice. So anyway, the whole point here is that we need a flooring system that could be removed. Most manufacturers do not provide one. There's very few. This flooring system is in place in a lot of professional sports arenas, because they got to flip that over. We're doing hockey one night, we're doing basketball the next night, we're doing ballet, whatever they do the next night. So anyway, without further ado, we had the 2 options, the fixed floor and the removable floor. The bid came in, we only had the 1 bidder. I actually talked to the manufacturer's rep. This bidder, All City Floor Company, did the refinishing of the high school floor. If you've seen their floor, it is gorgeous. It's really nice. I was very impressed by that. And they also did the floor over here at the elementary school. And that was a brand new floor, and it still is quite beautiful. Those were permanent floors, can't be removed or anything. So the removable flooring option came in at $350,500, which was more than we thought we needed to spend. And then we started looking at it, and I was like, wait a minute, $72,000 for the basketball backboards. I'm like, that could just come right out of there. And so Jenny and I, went on the internet. It's not that hard. We went, okay, here's some movable products that will work for us that are a lot less expensive. This dealer doesn't sell those. I'm sure there's a really nice promotion on those Spaldings. So we told them we needed them to take that out, which they agreed to. I don't have their updated sheet. But what I'm requesting is the City Council approve their bid with the omission of the Spalding baskets for a total price of $278,500. This would be installed in late September, early October, which actually the time frame of the building is about right. Oh, and I would ask that within that motion, if you choose to approve that, allow the city manager to sign the contract documents with the vendor.
Motion to approve, motion to award Sky High Recreation the floor and equipment, and have the city manager sign the contract.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded.
And just if I could add to that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need the amount in there.
The total amount of $278,500, please.
And that would be to All City Floor Company.
That's correct.
Withdraw previous motion and move that we authorize the contract to All City Floor Company for the purchase of Sky High Recreation flooring equipment for $278,500. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, and allow the city manager.
And allow the city manager to sign the contract.
Thank you.
And I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the All City Floor Company bid of $278,500. Award them the bid and allow the city manager to sign the contract. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala,
Aye.
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the contract for $278,500 for the floors and equipment to All City Floor Company, and allow city manager to sign.
Thank you. So, part of my city manager's report this evening will be a minor rebuttal of what you heard earlier regarding cellular towers. The book was dropped off by Ms. King, and if any of you want to read it, I have another copy as well. You're more than,
I have a copy as well.
so does our city clerk. But I will point out to you under 47 U.S. Code 332 mobile services, that while local authority is preserved in citing cell towers and other antennas, B4 is a limitation. It says no state or local government or instrumentality thereof may regulate the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless facilities on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with the Commission's regulations concerning such emissions. So if you have an applicant that comes to the city and wants to put in a cell tower, we do have a rigorous set of standards for that. But if they show that their emissions meet the FCC requirements and they have a certification thereof, which they will, and you deny their application based upon health standards, it'll automatically be appealed to a federal court and the city will lose. Really simple. The former city attorney and I went round and round with a few people about this about 5 years ago, including Ms. King. And while, you know, those may be valid health concerns or not, federal law says that you cannot use that as a reason for denying siting. Basically, it's really hard to deny a cell tower except for certain circumstances. We have one little short one right here in the city. So as far as cell towers in the city, there's a short one right here, and there's a short one right down behind Colorado Recycling off of Sherman. So a little short pole just like this one. Those are the only two cellular telephone towers in the city. There's a communication tower right up across, what's the cross street there? By Mountain King, but on the west side of the street. So there's a tower there, but that is a radio communications tower for radios. So totally different thing. It's not even a cell phone tower, which is what started the whole discussion because we permitted that under a different rule. So anyway, just wanted you all to know that for your own happiness and joy. I think kind of an interesting thing that was maybe not covered in Mr. Malloy's application tonight, but you know, kind of done a great job with that property. You know, it used to be kind of run down, and he subdivided, and he fixed up the landscaping and the houses, and has done an awful lot for that. Most of you, some of you know that used to be owned by the Forest Service. And it was basically like a seasonal housing or a supervisor's housing thing anyway. But he's just done a really nice job. I think it's pretty laudable. You know, fixed up the boulevard strip, which used to be full of weeds, and did a bunch of good things. And so it's actually just pretty cool. The only other thing that I want to talk about tonight briefly is Sky High Progress. It is coming along. And I think I forwarded to the council next Monday at 8:30 a.m. The Attorney General of the state of Colorado will be here for a photo op with Sky High and a tour, I'm sure. Anyway, but if you haven't been through the building, also like the Ag Committee, some people from that will be there, so it can be fun. If you haven't walked through the building, the mayor just walked through it the other day. And it's immense. You go into the main event center and it is immensely huge. You can't, you know, the reed's really big from the road, and I think you walk inside of it, then it reed's really big. And just think about it, we're gonna have two high school regulation basketball courts end to end running this length, and still have floor space on either side and on either end. So that's quite 6 volleyball courts, regulation, high school, college ones running that way. So it's amazing, and it's coming along. I mean, it's still got some work, and they're trying to get a TCO in time for Stampede. We will see how that goes. I mean, they're working diligently, but you know, not everything works at the speed of sound. The masonry work is like exceptionally nice. It's just a really cool building. And it's fun to walk through it and kind of see what it's going to look like. And the conference side is due a little bit later, but it's really cool. So if you get a chance to go on that tour, it'll be fun. You'll enjoy it. And you'll go, wow. It's like pretty amazing. Still a lot of work to do, but you know, it's getting there. And was fun. I was actually there twice, on, what day was that, Mayor? Tuesday?
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, went there Tuesday morning, walked around with contractors and the building inspector. And, Jenny went along on that, and we kinda got a nice tour there, and then went back in the afternoon with, Friends of Sky High, and the contractors, and, yeah, it's really cool. So you get a chance, I'd say go have a look. Hopefully we have a TCO for Stampede and Fair. Fingers crossed. But that's gonna come down to some fine details, so. Anyway. So, I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, is there any particular time frame when we know we will have the TCO?
We are, yeah, you know, we're kinda shooting for 2 weeks before, like a yay or nay, cause you can still have the concert, and the rodeo and all that stuff can happen, but the use of the interior of the event center side is the question. After the meetings we had this week, we're pretty sure, but there will be probably 2 weeks before kind of a drop dead date, unofficial.
Yeah, okay, the only reason why I asked that is because Rotary traditionally does their fundraiser, the little chuck wagon
Right,
thing,
right.
and we were getting ready to start a publicity push on that, and if we can't get in there to use that, it might be a little bit difficult.
Right, so we were trying to, you know, and we are really trying to get it nailed down.
Yeah.
And it might come down to a couple of state entities. So we're seeing if we can get, like, if we reach X point, then Y can happen. And we're pretty confident that we can do that. But pretty confident is not absolute. Yeah, I know, it's difficult.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just, yeah.
You know, the alternative is, of course, the McMillan building. So, I mean, that's usable.
Okay.
They had that, I mean, that will be available as an alternative. Certainly, I think for the chuck wagon dinner and a couple other things.
Okay.
You know,
That could work, yeah.
yeah, we will have that. I mean, that part's gonna be good, and the pavilion's good. Those will be usable. All the construction stuff that's on this west side will be pulled out by then. Like the big mixtures, that's all masonry, that will be done. So that area will be usable, you know. Of course, you know it always rains during Stampede, so the McMullen building might be an option there, and we're gonna try to work with everybody. Cause yeah,
Okay.
it's a big deal, so
Yeah.
we'll.
No, that's
Right.
it's good to know, because, you know, yeah.
It's I mean, it's a struggle, it's one of those, it's a close thing, you know, but that's what we're shooting for, so.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Forrest. Kids Connection.
Good evening. Mine is pretty quick. We started summer program on Tuesday. We have 68 kids enrolled, and we have stopped enrollment, and we already have, in the last 3 days, put 18 kids on a waiting list. So we're definitely very, very popular this summer, but we don't have the capacity for all the kids that we need. We ran into a few hiccups hiring enough staff for this summer. Hoping that once we get summer moving a little bit more, we can fix that situation. But right now, we're all hands on deck and we have our hands full, so. Other than that, that's really all I have for you. We finished off the school year on the 21st. Took the last week off, well, didn't take last week off, last week was staff training. So we got the new staff hires and the year-round staff that we have fully trained, got first aid and CPR and everything that they needed to be good to go again, done last week, and you know, we're just enjoying a bunch of new faces this summer, so waiting for some exciting challenges or some fun stories. We don't have too much other than we have really messy kids this summer. Really, really messy kids this summer. So we spent a lot more time teaching them how to clean up after themselves this week than enjoying fun and games, but we'll get there. So, do you have any questions for me?
So if you bring on more kids, how, like, what's your ratio? A staff member to,
The state licensing is 1 staff for 15 children. But it gets real tricky because you can only have 1 staff member with 8 children, or with 7 children. Once you hit 8, you have to have a second staff member like on standby. So even though they allow, so once you have a group of 30, you're allowed to have a minimum of 2 staff members present. And we're only running 2 groups right now. My younger group, K through 2nd, has 31 kids in it. My 3rd and older group has 37 in that group. We have 3 staff members in each of the groups, but we ran into some challenges because some of my staff members still have classes this summer, so we'll be running short. That's why we just decided to do the 2 groups, so I can have 3 staff members to start the summer and finish the summer. It's just the whole middle of summer that they have classes in order to get what they need done for the year. So we made some accommodations so that they can focus on making sure they get what they need to done for college. And most of them are, well, the 2 of them that are still, or that are in school right now, their focus is early childhood education. So it's a very good learning experience for them.
Change the majors.
Well, I think they've all, the 2 of them have decided that if they do go into education, they're probably gonna stick with middle school and high school age.
Well, I just wanna say that, we were out the other night, and I don't remember where we were going, but anyway, I saw you walking 1 child
Yes.
home, I assume home, and it just reminded me, and we all know that you do more than what is just in those 4 walls, we all know that, but to see you take the care for that one, you had your one little ducky walking with you, and you were.
It was her first time walking home alone. She she's going into 3rd grade, so mom felt like it was okay for her to take that challenge. And so she called mom, and mom said, yeah, you can go ahead and start walking home. And she was like, Miss Anika, would you please just walk me at least across the highway? It's my very first time by myself. So I was like, yep, let's go for it.
See, that makes
Just
it
to
even
make her feel
sweeter.
more comfortable.
Yeah.
And we just talked about safety and how to make sure you're just taking a few extra seconds before crossing that street to make sure everyone actually stops. And it's okay to wait there if you're not comfortable with going. But she wanted just the extra support.
I appreciate that you
That's
saw the emotional and the educational opportunity there. You gave that to her. Thank you.
what we're here for.
You do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I have a good team. It's a team effort, for sure.
That makes you a good leader
I'm
because
just
you
I'm-
credit your team.
Thank you.
Very good. I have nothing else, do you?
Alright.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we go to council committee, city commission, council reports.
I don't have anything today.
Nothing? Martha?
I think I have talked plenty tonight, thank you. I appreciate you all listening, appreciate that.
Mr. Foster?
Very little, sorry. I have to call Gary and get some reports in. I intended to have a rough draft for our Think Big for Monte Vista, but this week has gotten away from me, so I will intend on having it next week, or next meeting.
Well, it's all on me now. We're gonna stay here for a while, folks. Just kidding. No, appreciate, what's that?
I'm calling your wife now.
Okay. Appreciate the ladies planting the flowers and all that getting done. Parks look, since we got through the dandelion stage, the parks look really good. And be diligent, pay attention to your surroundings. It is definitely that time of year where they're starting, had people walking in the alley again at the wrong time of day. It's not right. So just pay attention to your surroundings and take care of your neighbors. We're all people. We used to really like each other back in 2019. 2020 changed some people, but 2021, like your neighbors, all right? So with that being said, Monty's strong, and we adjourn the meeting until June 17th, 6 p.m.